It's time to get ready for the Buffalo Bills Week 14 contest against the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm joined by Locked On Cowboys host Marcus Mosher to discuss it today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of Go Bills and Buffalo's Run, also the co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This crossover Thursday episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. I'm Joe Marino, host of Locked On Bills, joined by Marcus Mosher, the outstanding host of Locked On Cowboys, here to get you ready for a big one on Sunday. The 7-6 Buffalo Bills hosting the 10-3 Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys winners of 5 in a row, the hottest team in football. Marcus, a big one here in Week 15.
I can't wait. I've been waiting for this game all season long. I'm somebody who lives fairly close to the Buffalo Bills, so you get to hear all the Bills fans talking about this matchup. I cannot wait, Joe. It's going to be absolutely outstanding.
Well, and certainly Dallas coming off of a big win against the Philadelphia Eagles, the Bills coming off of a big win against the Kansas City Chiefs. And so Dallas very much alive in the NFC East, very alive for, potentially the number 1 seed in the NFC. And the Bills at 7-6, they're the number 11 seed in the AFC, but the door is opening for them to get into this playoff mix and into this divisional mix. So, Marcus, as you look at the Dallas Cowboys entering this game, what's that big storyline for them?
First of all, Buffalo is the 11th seed in the AFC, but you can make a really compelling argument that they're the best team in the AFC. It's just, that's how wild of a season it's been for the Bills. If you just have 11 guys on special teams against the Broncos, you don't lose to the Patriots, they're probably the number 1 seed right now, which is absolutely wild. But for the Cowboys, it's, can Dak Prescott continue to play at an MVP level or close to an MVP level? Because if the answer is yes, I really don't see them losing the rest of the way, because this team is so talented on both sides of the ball, because of how valuable that position is. This is the best I've ever seen Prescott play. The Cowboys offense is humming. They're averaging over 32 points per game this year, over 40 points per game at home. But can you go on the road in a place like Buffalo where for the Cowboys, it's going to be cold and windy? For Bills fans, this is just a regular Sunday. Actually, it's going to be pretty nice from what we've seen. Can you go to Buffalo and get a win against a good team? That's what I'm looking forward to see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I know the road has not been as kind to Dallas. There are 3 losses: at Arizona, at Philadelphia, at San Francisco. And so hopefully for the Bills, their lesser play, if you will, on the road will show up. I think the big storyline for the Buffalo Bills here is that the AFC East division is back on the table for them.
Heck yeah.
A 4th straight AFC East division title, with the Dolphins losing to Tennessee. That drops them to 9-4. The Bills sit at 7-6 with a head-to-head win over Miami already. And as you mentioned, it's been a bit of an adventure of a season for the Bills. They're certainly a capable team. Like, they have what's necessary to be one of the best teams in the NFL. Their record certainly doesn't reflect that, because they've had some goofy losses, whether it was the Philly game or the Denver game when you have too many men on the field. You lost to Mac Jones. You lost to Zach Wilson, right? Like, you've had some hiccups along the way. But despite all of that, it's right in front of them. Their next 3 games, Dallas, and then the Chargers and the Patriots.
So
Miami,
Dak Prescott, Bailey Zappi, and Easton Stick.
Right. This is the tough one.
This is the hardest one left.
Meanwhile, Miami has to just lose one of the Jets, Cowboys, and Ravens, They lose one of those, you take care of your business. Week 18 in Miami is for the division. And so Dallas is going to have a lot to say in who wins the AFC East, right? With head-to-head matchups against Buffalo this week and next week against Miami. So the big one for the Bills, like as you mentioned, the quarterbacks that are coming up, Dak Prescott, Easton Stick, Mac Jones, handle this one. And you're setting the stage to play for the division in week 18, not to mention you could potentially lose to Dallas and still play for the division in week 18, assuming Miami drops 2, which doesn't seem completely out of the question. So a lot at stake.
We should mention that the Dolphins game that they play against the Ravens, that is in Baltimore.
Yes.
And that'll probably be for Baltimore. If they win that game, that'll probably be the game that clinches the number 1 seed in the AFC. They're going to need that game. So Miami's schedule is really tough. And even this week against the Jets, like you just lost your starting center. Tyreek Hill might not play this week against the Jets. Like all of a sudden, that is a really, really close and competitive game.
And the Jets are better and different with Zach Wilson. Low bar to clear, but
yes,
they got Tim Boyle last time, who's not a real NFL player.
No, he wasn't even a real college player. He threw 1 college touchdown, But for the Bills, can you find a way to sneak in? Now, what's going to hurt them a little bit is some of the tiebreakers, and we don't have to get into all that, but you have to at least get 10 wins. You might even need to win out to get a wild card spot. But if you can steal the division and host a home playoff game, now we're having a different conversation.
To me, that's the clearer path. Like the wild card stuff, like there's a bunch of middling teams and they all got to kind of play each other, but you don't have the tiebreaker over Jacksonville or Cincinnati or Denver.
Yeah.
You can take care of the division and host a playoff game. And the Bills get in, nobody's going to want to play them. So,
and Joe, look at who, let's say they end up being the 4th seed in the AFC, right? Like, who is going to be that 5 seed? Is it going to be Cleveland with Joe Flacco and no offensive tackles? Is it going to be Pittsburgh with Mitch Trubisky maybe still playing quarter? But it's so beneficial for Buffalo to try to win this division. If they can win out, I think they're going to do it.
On the Dallas side of things, obviously not having the tiebreaker over San Francisco matters quite a bit. But if you can avoid San Francisco until the NFC Championship game, and if you play Philly again, bringing them to Dallas, right, that's a big deal. And so, like, we've talked a lot about the Bills and what's at stake for them. There's a lot at stake for Dallas here as they try to, maybe hope for a San Francisco hiccup, but at a minimum, get that 2 seed and bring the Eagles to you if you have to play them.
Yes and no. The problem is the Cowboys would need the Eagles to slip up once. They don't own the division tiebreaker. So they need Philadelphia to lose somewhere. And unfortunately, Philly's schedule is really easy. They play at Seattle this week and then Giants, Cardinals, Giants. The Cowboys would need to win out and have Philly slip up. But I actually think that the Cowboys, I'm not sure how much that matters. What they need to show is, can you go on the road and take care of business against 2 good teams in the next 2 weeks? If you do that and you end up 14-3 on the season and you're still the 5 seed, they're going to have all the confidence in the world that they can go play anywhere and win. So even if it doesn't impact where they are seeding wise, I think this does have a big impact on what they can do in the playoffs, show that you can go win on the road.
Well, even if they are the 5 seed, you're going to go play the NFC South division winner who's probably going to have a losing record.
Probably Tampa. Probably.
Right. And we saw that last year. So, and Dallas is better and Tampa's worse.
Yeah.
So,
and that was a blowout. That was with Tom Brady, and that was an absolute blowout. So that's the thing is the seeding probably, I mean, obviously it matters. If you could get the 2 seed, have home field advantage, yes, but it's the confidence that you can build by winning these games against good teams.
Well, it's a shame the Bills couldn't have beat Philly. That would have been a great help for both teams here, but
come on, Gabe Davis.
Josh, if he was wrong on the throw. How about Sean McDermott give him a chance with 20 seconds left and 2 timeouts? Yeah. We're past that, Marcus. We're past that. We're on to Dallas. Well, for now, the only thing that you can control is the Dallas game. So we're focused on that a bit more here in just a second. We're going to talk matchups that are going to decide this football game on both sides of the football. So stick with us. But this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. This time of year can be challenging for some people, and it's natural to feel some sadness or even anxiety about it. But adding something new and positive to your life can counteract some of those feelings. Therapy can be a bright spot amid all the stress and change, something to look forward to make you feel grounded and to give you the tools needed to manage everything that's going on. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the very best version of yourself. It's not just for people who have experienced major trauma. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you do is fill out a brief questionnaire. That'll get you matched with a licensed therapist. And if you ever need to switch therapists, you can do so at any time for no additional charge. So find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, Marcus, let's get into the matchups that can decide this game. And I'd love to start this conversation with the dynamics of the Bills defense against the Dallas offense. Dallas offense is really, really, really good. Number one scoring offense in the league. And in this current 5-game win streak, they're averaging 40 points per game and haven't scored less than 33 in any of those contests. They're scoring points. They're taking care of the football. They've had 1 turnover committed in the last 4 games. They've had 0 turnovers committed in 6 of 13 games this year, and 1 or fewer turnovers in 11 of 13 games. So you're scoring. You're not giving away the football. Dak Prescott, 15 touchdowns and 1 interception over the last 5 weeks, right? To me, he's the NFL MVP right now. CeeDee Lamb's been unreal this season. This left side of the offensive line with Tyron Smith and Tyler Smith has been unbelievable. And so there's a big question for the Bills. How do you handle this defense? Or excuse me, this offense? How does your defense handle this offense? And so it comes down to 4 things for me. Number 1, you're at home. And we talked about if there's been hiccups for Dallas this year, it's been on the road. Can you have that true home field advantage? Can your crowd impact this game? And number 2 is how do you make them lean on ancillary weapons? And I'm not slighting Jake Ferguson or Brandin Cooks. Michael Gallup's had his moments this year, but how much can you minimize CeeDee Lamb and force them to go to those other weapons, right? It's like Lamb's got like 1,200 yards this year, and those other guys are chilling around 500. And then I think if there are matchups to win with the Dallas offensive line, it's probably the center Biadasz. It's probably the right tackle Terrence Steele. Can you maximize your chances to get wins there, and can you get turnovers? Can you make Dallas do things that they really haven't done this year, and that's give away the football? It's a tough matchup. But as we get into this conversation, where I start to get the most nervous is, all right, what answers do the Bills have where they have most of their injuries are on defense? How do they make up for it in this game against a quarterback that's playing the best of any quarterback in the league right now?
So this is what bums me out a little bit about this matchup is one of the things that gives the Cowboys a lot of trouble are really good coverage linebackers. And with Matt Milano obviously not playing, he's out for the year with a leg injury. I would have loved to see how the Cowboys would have gone up against him because for my money, he's the second best linebacker in the league, and I'm not sure it's close. But what the Cowboys have done all season is they find your weakest linebacker and they just put him basically in hell, right? Like they're going to use motion all over the place to see if you're in man or zone coverage. And once they find out you're in man coverage, they're going to run picks and rub routes all game long. And then if you're in zone, that's when they're going to put CeeDee Lamb in the slot and get him matched up one-on-one against your linebacker. This is going to be a tough game for Buffalo's linebackers. If they can perform well, I think they have a chance to stop Dallas, but that's been a little bit of an issue for them this season.
How much for you? When you think matchups, what's that prevailing thought? I know I talked about some of the dynamics of the Bills D against the Dallas O. Where does your mind go, Marcus?
I mean, for me, it's Josh Allen. I feel like the narrative around quarterbacks is always so stupid. I hate national narratives when it comes to quarterbacks because in a lot of ways, I feel like Josh Allen is having the season that Dak had last year where, yes, the turnovers are high, but it's because he's being asked to do just a bunch of absurd things every week to help Buffalo win games. And there's been turnovers that have bounced off players' hands and into, defensive, backs, hands for interceptions. I think Allen's been amazing this season. And I'm not sure how the Cowboys are going to stop him because they haven't played a quarterback like him at all this season. They've only played a couple of mobile quarterbacks, but those guys can't throw like Josh Allen. And even the quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts, who used to be that kind of dual threat guy, Jalen Hurts doesn't want to scramble anymore. And I'm not saying that Josh Allen is only a running quarterback. He's got the ability to get outside the pocket, scramble, and make absurd throws like he did last week to help the Bills win that game. So can the Cowboys pass rush be disciplined enough to keep him in the pocket and create pressure. I don't know. They're almost too aggressive sometimes. Dan Quinn wants to blitz you all the time. He wants to use a bunch of stunts to create pressure. I'm really worried about Josh Allen getting outside the pocket and creating big plays down the field.
Well, the Dallas defense certainly presents a lot of challenges. I know Josh Allen is going to be a challenge for them, but for all the good that we talked about Dallas's offense, it's not like their defense is bad. It's one of the best defenses in the league. And we talked about they score points and take care of the football on offense. Well, they limit points and take away the football on defense. These are good things. These are winning formulas. And the pass rush is just scary. I mean, Micah Parsons, everybody knows about him, like one of the best premier pass rushers in all of football. But if it was just him, that'd be okay. It's not. It's DeMarcus Lawrence, who I've been a big DeMarcus Lawrence fan for a long time because of how technical he is, right? His hand usage is as good as any player in the league. And he's going to have Spencer Brown this week. And that's going to be a real challenge for Spencer Brown, who's really athletic and really long, but still working technically, right? And so he's going to have to win some one-on-ones there. And then it's Osa Digizua as an interior guy. Dante Fowler, Dorrance Armstrong, Sam Williams as depth players that can get a lot of rush. Even Chauncey Golston. Like there's guys on top of guys here. And how they complement this pass rush with dynamic like playmakers in the back end with, of course, Stephon Gilmore, with Deron Bland and all the interceptions and pick sixes that he has. Malik Hooker's really found himself in Dallas. This Marquise Bell is a guy that every time I watch the Cowboys, I mean, it's like he's like this hybrid back seven player that feels like exactly what you need to help with a running quarterback like a Josh Allen, to help with some of the matchup problems that the Bills might be able to present with Dalton Kincaid, their young, bright tight end. He seems like an eraser type player. And so the challenges for the Bills on offense are vast against this Dallas defense. And I think it's going to come down for the Bills is running the ball. And if there's an area where maybe Dallas isn't elite on defense, like where they're just okay, it's probably run defense. And can you be committed to it? Can you get James Cook going? Cook's been really good this year. He's third in among all running backs in the NFL in yards from scrimmage this year. And he's number one in yards per touch with running backs that have had at least 100 touches. He's got over 200. And so I think he's going to be a big part of this. Josh Allen running is a big part of this. And I think the Bills have been a little bit choosy with Josh and when he runs the ball. We know that it's very effective, but this is the time. This is the type of game where you unleash that and there's no restrictions. Like, dude, go make the plays. Go do the crazy Josh Allen stuff. So I think it comes down to that. And how much can you lean on some of your younger playmakers? I know that everybody knows about Stefon Diggs, Gabe Davis. I know there's probably some perception out there about him. I think he's a very underwhelming player, but Khalil Shakir is a young slot player. The tight ends in Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, and then even throwing the ball to James Cook. I think that's really where you're going to have your best chances to have a level of success against a really good Dallas defense.
I'm going to give you one player just to keep an eye on in this game. It's an old friend of the Cowboys. It's Connor McGovern playing at left guard. What the Cowboys have done this year is they've tried to find every team's weakest offensive lineman and then just line Micah Parsons up over top of him and use his quickness and athleticism to create pressure inside. I got to believe that Dan Quinn and the Cowboys are circling Connor McGovern and trying to find ways to beat him quickly so they can get it into Josh Allen's face. So the Cowboys know Connor McGovern well. He was a starter for multiple years in Dallas. Look for them to attack him on Sunday.
That's going to be interesting. McGovern's been pretty solid for the Bills. I wonder if they think maybe Osiris Torrance, the rookie right guard, who's laterally not very quick.
And
right?
that's where Parsons could have a big impact, right? If they decide to put him over there, use his quickness. Yeah.
You're going to have to slide protect, get the ball out quick, and maybe in some ways that will help the Bills stay on rhythm. But yeah, it's a dynamic in this game. Connor McGovern, who's maybe he's got some of the secrets, Marcus, that can help the Bills in this one. You never know how that stuff goes, but yeah, the familiar friend there for the Dallas Cowboys. Anything else matchup wise that you want to get into here before we talk about the path to victory for both teams?
I'm just really interested to see Stefon Diggs against Stephon Gilmore, a former Buffalo Bill great. Yeah. Well, not really, but former Buffalo Bill first-round pick. Gilmore had, I think, the best game I've seen him play with the Cowboys last week against A.J. Brown. Made a bunch of tackles short of the line of scrimmage, forced a fumble on A.J. Brown, really got underneath A.J. Brown's skin. Stefon Diggs is a different player. He's got the route running and the quickness. I wonder how Gilmore is going to match up against Diggs, but just from a fan perspective, watching these two guys go up against each other is going to be absolutely incredible.
Note to Stefon Diggs, don't call Stephon Gilmore old, right? He took that personal against A.J. Brown and then locked him up all game long. All right, we're going to talk about the path to victory for both sides here in just a moment, so stick with us. But look, as the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's simply no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. I've been having a lot of success with the player props this year, and lately it's been the James Cook overs on receiving yards. Last week they had him at 19.5 against Kansas City. I smashed the over on that. He had 80-plus receiving yards. So that's what I'll be riding. Probably be riding that again this week, depending on where they put it. But check it out for yourself. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, Marcus, as we have our final segment here, I want to focus in on what would lead to a win for each team. I got 4 things down for the Bills. What do you have for the Dallas side of things to get a win here? And surprisingly, the Bills are favored in this game. So
I'm not that surprised. Buffalo's a good team. They're
the darlings of Vegas. Vegas has been in on the Bills for a while now.
Again, you have like 3 different plays go your way, and you're the number 1 seed in the AFC right now. Buffalo is a very good team, so I'm not surprised at all to see them favored. But for the Cowboys, it's getting into this positive game script that we've seen over the last 5 weeks. When the Cowboys can get a lead, it becomes really difficult for teams to come back. And we saw that last week against Philly. The Cowboys took the ball, first drive of the game, went down, scored a touchdown. And Philly was fighting this uphill battle the rest of the game because the Cowboys' pass rush is so good. And then once the Cowboys get ahead on offense, that's when they can mix in the run and pass, that they can keep teams on their heels. So don't allow the Bills to hang around in this game. Get up a score, get up 2 scores, make the Bills become a drop back passing team, because that's when your pass rush can tee off. But the longer the Cowboys let the Bills hang around and keep this as a 1-score game, I think it's more likely that the Bills will be able to win this game at the end. So look for the Cowboys to really be aggressive early in this game, trying to get a lead.
That's everybody wants that, right? You want to be 2-dimensional on offense. You want that other team to be 1-dimensional on offense. The way you do that, you get a lead. That'll be important for both sides of this. Before I give you my path to victory for the Bills, I want to kind of put you on the spot. We've had a lot of good things to say about Dallas, right? And that's because they give you a lot of good things to say about Dallas. What are your issues? What's the stuff? What are the problems with Dallas? No team's perfect. What is it?
No, it's the run defense, and you nailed it. They are 32nd in EPA per play against the run. Now they've been up in a lot of games, so teams haven't been able to expose them, and they haven't let teams hang around to be able to run the ball. But you can absolutely run the ball against this Cowboys defense, and Dallas will likely be without their run-stopping defensive tackle, Jonathan Hankins, in this game. Mozzie Smith has not been a good run defender this year. So if you're going to beat the Cowboys, running the ball, specifically up the middle, is how you have a lot of success against them.
And the Bills love to run duo. They love to run this tackle wrap dart play. They'll pull Deion Dawkins all game long from the backside, make him play side. So, yeah, that's going to be big for the Bills, and that's part of my keys here as I get into my path to victory for the Bills. Winning in the red zone, I have number 1. For as good as Dallas has been offensively this year, a little surprised that the red zone scoring percentage is 15th in the NFL. Not that the Bills have been great on red zone defense; they're 18th in red zone defense. But if you can, you always love to score touchdowns when you're in the red zone and limit them to field goals when they're in the red zone. I think if you can keep Dallas out of cashing in on drives, that's going to help you a ton because they're going to score points. Meanwhile, the Bills are number 2 in the NFL in red zone offense. Dallas's defense, for as good as it is, 22nd in red zone defense. So a little surprised for as good as Dallas has been this year that they're below average in red zone defense and average when it comes to red zone offense. Number 2, I do have running the football. I think that's, if there's a real opportunity, it is that. You just talked about it. And the Bills' rushing offense has been good. of late. I think they've really found themselves really going back to the Denver game, Philly, Kansas City. They had their moments running the ball. I think they'll need to continue to lean into that and using Josh Allen as part of that equation. Number 3 is turnovers. Can you get Dallas out of playing clean football? I don't know if you can, but it would be helpful. And then can you play clean football against a defense that really hasn't allowed any team to play clean football? And the Bills have had their share of giveaways, right? They've had some bad luck there, but like there's 9 games in a row since the Bills have had a clean game in terms of not turning over the football. Meanwhile, Dallas has multiple takeaways in like almost every game. And so I think you gotta find a way to win the turnover battle. And then number 4, I'm going back to the home field advantage. We talked about Dallas's 3 losses, all on the road. The Bills have 1 loss at home this year. It's the Denver game where they had 12 men on the field for the game losing field goal, but then they got another chance and made it. The Bills turned it over 4 times in that game against Denver, and it came down to that. So I think the Bills are a good team at home. Dallas is a better team at home. I think you got to make your home field advantage count in this one.
Can we just take a play out of the Patrick Mahomes playbook and say, the 12th minute, it didn't really impact a play. I don't know why you called it. It's a joke, Patrick Mahomes.
Man, that fallout's been insane. They are so mad that they called that penalty. But
they called a penalty correctly. I know it's ridiculous. But no, you're right. Buffalo's a hard place to play, especially when it gets cold. Those Bills fans, first of all, Bills fans are awesome. I absolutely love Bills fans. I live in the Buffalo area. Nothing but respect for Bills fans. It can get really, really loud in Buffalo. So I am curious to see how the Cowboys handle the elements here in this one.
Well, I've been thinking about that, but like Dallas plays in Philly every year. Like these types of hostile environments are not unusual for Dallas.
They're not used to playing in a stadium that is this windy. I mean, listen, Buffalo fans know that stadium, the wind just whips around. Dak does not have the strongest arm in the world, and that's one of my concerns. If we do get some of those wind gusts here, and I know the weather's not predicting it right now, but that doesn't really matter when you go to the stadium. Like there's wind gusts all the time there. I want to see how the Cowboys handle that because it's just not something that they're used to doing very often.
Something about that stadium, man. There's times where I might stay in Amherst, and then it's a 20-minute drive to the stadium going south. And it's like as you walk to the stadium, it just gets windier and windier. It's like the stadium, it's underground. It's like
I say you walk down when you get into the stadium, and then that wind just whips all over the place.
Yeah, it's a very interesting. The new stadium in 2026 has wind confusion, so there'll be less wind and how they structure it.
Sure, we'll see.
Conversation for another time, but a big one, obviously, Week 15, Bills hosting the Cowboys. A lot of playoff implications. A big one for both teams. 2 good football teams, 2 MVP candidates if the Bills can go on a run. A lot at stake. Marcus, this has been a great conversation. And folks, the conversation continues on both Locked On Cowboys and Locked On Bills the rest of the week. So make sure that you are subscribed and following all of the discussion that's happening pre and post game. We've got you covered here on the Locked On Podcast Network. As always, we kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch up with you again real soon.